Right now, I have to stop saying.
I'm so happy that Ryan has gotten used to using that drop, because even if Luds isn't here, he's not today, but he actually might be connecting to the show. Who can say? But we are always keeping Luds on part of the show because of that drop, which, in case you don't remember, he said to Mark Jenko's face before we started a show, but it was on, and now we have the drop. And that is your history lesson of the day for DLS. Time to talk to Mike Heika right now. It is Friday. Hi, look who's here. It's the great Mike Heika, our returning champion, who already leads the pack in number of appearances on DLLS. And I can't even remember if it's 3 or 4.
It's just 3.
Is this your second time in the studio?
Third time.
Third. And you joined us from Finland.
Oh, that's right. That
4.
is true.
I was trying to remember. I thought you'd been in the lounge twice. This is your first time in the podcast.
Yes,
so welcome
indeed.
to the podcast
Thank
studio.
you.
Alongside
Very
Mike
cozy.
Heika, I'm Owen Newkirk. Ryan Vaughters is our producer. Luds might be joining us via the Greater Pittsburgh Airport. We'll find out. And Sam maybe later, although the interviews went pretty long yesterday, so we'll see. Before we get into all of the things with hikes, let's talk about 2 things. Big Brothers, Big Sisters. This is our big donation month. ALLCITY Networks, which is our overarching company that includes DLLS and the 4 other affiliates in Denver, Phoenix, Chicago, and Philadelphia, have a partnership. And this is not just for this month. It's a year-long commitment with Big Brother. Actually, I think a multi-year commitment for this very nice charity, very wonderful charity. This is donation month. We don't have super chats like we normally do in YouTube. Instead, you can leave a donation. So if you wanted to do a super chat today, instead, give us a little donation. Then it'll say you did it. Then put us that little chat and say, hey, this is my super chat comment, but I donated to Big Brothers Big Sisters. We haven't done a lot of super chats lately because a lot of those are during Stars games. Well, we're going to do one tomorrow. We'll talk about that. But help us out with that. Also, you have 2.5 days left. That's right. The merchandise warehouse sale is almost done. I found out this afternoon it ends on Sunday. Well, it's Friday afternoon. So everything, or let's say almost everything, 20% off, some as much as 80% off, 85, if I can read the chart. So go to alldls.com, click on merch, and get what you want on sale now. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. And if Luds does join us, he right now just says it's ringing, so he's going to try to get connected. All right. Oh, do we have him? Oh, put him on the screen. Okay, I thought you were saying we got him like he's ready to go. We have a whole bunch of stuff in the hopper, and we talked about this on our mini pod that we did on Wednesday. The big storylines in training camp. We'll get into line combinations. I want to grill you on some of the Stars questionnaires that we did with Luds and Sam earlier in the week. One of the big ones is the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Glenn Gulletson, new head coach. Neil Graham, new. David Peltier added to the staff. Elaine Nasruddin and Jeff Reese still there. The video coach is still there. But this is a big shakeup, even though there are some familiar faces. Neil Graham's not new to the organization. Gulletson isn't, but it's been a while. Peltier is. What are your first couple? I mean, this is now 3 days, 2 on ice, plus the media day stuff where Neil and Gully talked. What stood out the most is what you've seen from the new staff so far.
Just the positive vibe. And not to say that Pete was negative in any way, but again, he did things the way he wanted to do things. And I think a lot of stuff had to go through Pete to get the quote unquote stamp of approval, or this is how we do things. This is how Pete does things. And Gully seems to allow the others to do what they want to do. And I know this is one of Craig's favorite subjects, but I think we're going to see how Elaine Nasruddin wants a defense to be run, and
It's
how
a fascinating topic.
it really is. And
is,
again,
is it going to get away from strict man-on-man pressure? Because Luds, who's going to be joining us as soon as he's connected, we'll send him on. He couldn't. Luds, welcome. Oh, he's muted.
look at that.
Yeah, he said he wasn't, but he was muted. He's got to hit his button or something. He's still going. So we'll let him figure out, and he'll just interrupt us. Luds would do nothing but complain about the man-on-man.
Yes.
And especially drawing defensemen from around the net out to the blue line.
Correct.
I understand his angst to that. You think it's going to change?
I do.
Why?
I think Elaine did things the way that Pete wanted him to do things because that was Pete. And I think Spotter did the same thing because that was Pete. Pete, and again, I don't want to say he demanded it, but it was just the expectation of, I'm the head coach, things go through me, and I want things done the way I want things done.
Do you remember the interview, one of the interviews that Paul Maurice did when describing the differences between he and Pete? Of Pete usually comes to a solution to a problem faster than I do. This is Maurice talking. Right. And he does it and goes. And he goes, I admire that. I take a lot longer. I wonder if the description for DeBoer is set in his ways, or is it like a stubbornness of, once I've made a decision, that's what we're going to do?
Could be a little bit of that, I think. And again, I hate to, this stuff comes off as negative, but
no, this isn't piling on.
It's analysis, basically. I mean, he had the best regular season record in his 3 years in Dallas and got to the Western Conference Final 3 times. So what he does works. I get, and we have other coaches, we have other people who you work with. I get the thought process of, I'm the boss.
Hey, we can hear him.
Craig.
I recognize that voice. You don't have to introduce that guy to me. I can recognize his voice.
As you should. It's been decades.
I've been waiting for you to show up on an episode of The Pit in the emergency room of Pittsburgh Memorial or whatever.
Hey, Mike, you know what? As we landed and as I was sprinting down to find a kind of quiet place, I kind of thought of the saying, I love it when a plan comes together. Mike, you know the show, right?
Oh, what is the show? No, it's escaping my brain. I'm too old.
The A-Team.
Oh, it's the A-Team? Is that the new A-Team or the old A-Team?
It's definitely the old one with Mr. T, right?
And it was, it was Hannibal Smith. It was George Papard, who was the leader that always used that line. That was a famous line, Mike. My God.
You know, it has to be the old one.
You know, I'm 64. It's pretty old. I don't know if you know anybody that old.
You know, Luds doesn't make any current references of TV.
My brain is still like 23.
All right. So
my point on Pete was,
yes,
I do think he thinks that he is the man. You always hear the smartest guy in the room or whatever. That seems like a negative thing. I think he just felt that he knew what he was doing and people need to do it his way. And that's just the impression I got from him. And I think the assistants may have, I don't want to say be scared, but respected him to the point that they did it his way. And that's just the way it was done. And now I think Glenn is much more, Glenn talks about being an assistant coach and saying, you know, I understand what it means to take pride in the power play.
Pete's never been an NHL assistant.
And Glenn understands what it's like to be Elaine Nasruddin and say, look, this is you. I respect what you did. I went against your penalty kill. I want you to do things the way you want to do them. So I do think we'll see that.
Hey, Luds, and Heika just said this. It's a great line. This is not disparaging Pete DeBoer. He's a very successful NHL head coach. We're not saying he isn't very talented at what he does. This is just different, and we're analyzing that. I really like the way you said this is analysis of it. Do you think this delegation style from Glenn Gulletson, it doesn't mean that he isn't in charge. He's the boss. But allowing his assistants to have maybe a little bit more say, maybe a little bit more stamp on their departments, can that be a better thing, an improvement for the Stars with their coaches?
Yes, because, and again, I don't know this, but I would assume that the way that Knobloch went about his business on that bench, he allowed, whether it's Gully or any of the other assistant coaches, have their say, right? I mean, he's got a couple, he's got one in particular, is pretty, Hall of Famer on his bench. So I think Gully learns from that. I think Gully learns how more engaged he was knowing that he had a bite of what's going on in the room and on the bench and all that other kind of stuff. That, and he finds that it's kind of a nicely run program, and the players and the coaches, and I mean all the coaches, are connected more than just having someone that has the wields the hammer all the time. So I think he's learned that, and I think that's the way he spreads the wealth around on his bench.
We had a great conversation with Thomas Harley today. I'm not just going to go with the thighs, although that was pretty funny. Lud's Hikes led off with, we're standing in a small circle in the dressing room with no other players, just Thomas Harley and about 5 or 6 media members. And Mike goes to lead it off with Thomas by saying, "Have you seen Nils Lundqvist's thighs?" And that's exactly what he looked at him like, what are you trying to get at?
Well,
the point was he's worked really hard.
I would respond by, Mike, why are you staring at his thighs?
That's basically what Thomas said.
That's pretty much what he said.
But my point was that his thighs from now to what they were 3 years ago, it's night and day, and it shows how much work he's put in. He's won the physical fitness award that Yuri used to win. He's won it 3 years in a row, and I think that not only shows what he can do physically, but how hard he works at being a good defenseman. And Thomas has done the same thing, I think.
And I think Thomas is a lot more muscular and athletic looking than he was when he first came. But his answer to Mike Ludds was sort of a combination of, yes, Nils has worked really hard, but it's also the natural evolution of going from boy to man.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the other thing that probably stands out to the coaches and trainers and everything else is just Nils's commitment, to be a better player. And maybe that all started with Pete not playing him in the playoffs a couple of years ago. Maybe that started with, well, I'll show you when you give me an opportunity, which he never did. And so now it sure seems to me like you have the general manager in Nils's corner. That's the way I feel now. And so I think that carries over to him as a player, and Gully's probably going to be the same way, because Gully's already said, hey, you've got the opportunity here. It's up to you to see if you're going to be playing every game, or you're going to play 65 of them and you won't start in the playoffs. That's all up to Nils Lundqvist right now.
I'm laughing because I haven't seen Allie in the live chat lately. She was a staple in the playoffs. She wrote, "Petition to get thigh circumference added to hockey card stats." There you go, Hikes. It's going to stick with you all season now. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about, there are other storylines that Ludds and I and Sam were kind of going through. One of the big ones is a full season of Mikko Rantanen. Yes. Now, we're going to get to an ad break in a couple minutes, so we can, if we want to carry us over, we can. But your thoughts of Mikko settled, not swirling in his brain with all the drama last year, which had to be emotionally taxing.
Yes.
And comfortable, not just not dealing with all the drama, but knowing this is where I'm going to be for 8 years.
Yeah, and I think I hate to throw money out there, but the money makes a difference. I think he has a weight on him that says you are the number one player on this team, which he didn't have in Colorado.
Yes. And
I actually think he wants it. I think he wants to be that guy that everybody's looking at.
Interesting.
Because his personality is a lot different than the Finns. And what we saw in the playoffs, especially when we went on the road, is you'd go to the morning skate and the Finns would pack up and leave, and Mikko would stay. And he would work and work and work and do stuff with the training staff, the strength and conditioning staff. And then he would take the last bus with the Colin Blackwells and the Smiths and guys like that. And that's who he'd eat lunch with. He wasn't part of the Finnish Mafia. He was just a guy. And he didn't mind that. I think he really enjoyed learning every single player on the team and kind of being that leader guy.
Ludds Gully on Wednesday called him a soldier. But it wasn't in the sense of, he's just infantry, he's not a leadership. What he meant was he's willing to do all the work. And when you see a guy that good, making that paycheck, staying late and doing all that, that has to be a huge impression from a leadership standpoint. But what Hikes just said, the idea of getting out of, I'm not accusing him of being in Nathan McKinnon's shadow, but to be the guy on the forward group, that's interesting. A chance for him to really put his stamp on the league, leading a team.
Well, I think you kind of wonder, is he referring to maybe Nate McKinnon on the bench and how Nate went about it, being the guy? Now he just wants to be, not the guy, but a leader.
And we all know that McKinnon is known as being a pretty intense individual. And I think Connor McDavid is a bit like that, in that just he's so focused on trying to win at all costs and very serious.
Yes.
Maybe it's good that he's in a spot where you can be serious and intent to win, but also you've got Glenn Gulletson. You've got, Jason Robertson was full of smiles today, and that's a good thing.
Yep.
All right, we're going to let Luds catch his breath. We're going to get ourselves a quick ad break, and we will be back because we have a lot more to talk about with great Mike Heika right here on DLLS. See, what Luds is really happy about is I didn't give him an ad read until the second break. So he gets this one just to chill out. But let's talk about Prize Picks. So this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. We have not just preseason, but regular season NFL football underway, and of course in college as well. And you should be doing what you can in Prize Picks to set your lineups, because all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections to set your lineup, and you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Well, here's the max discount for this weekend for the 21st on Sunday. Patrick Mahomes, 0.5 passing yards. You think he's going to have at least one passing yard? Probably. So there's one. Now you just need one more to hit and you can be a winner. Prize Picks makes it easy. You download the app today, use the code DLLS to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code DLLS. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And now we talk about Shady Rays. Now, I could walk off the screen, grab my Shady Rays out of my bag. They're right in there. Nice pair of aviators. And just rub it into Luds because he doesn't have them. Because he doesn't know how to use Slack. He doesn't know how to get into Slack to then learn how to use Slack. When we first started, our partners at Shady Rays offered everybody at DLS a pair of sunglasses. You had to go to the website, pick it out. Well, guess who didn't do it? Greg Ludwig. And so he hasn't had the Shady Rays. I have them. I actually bought another pair. But here's the great thing about Shady Rays. They're good looking. They're well made. They're durable, polarized lenses. And of course, they're not stupidly expensive. So you can wear them. And if you ever break them or lose them, they will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to give you the best deal they have. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS35 for 35% off polarized sunglasses. All right. Let's go back to training camp. Luds is back in the frame. One more thing about Thomas Harley in the defense before we move on to other topics, because I do want to get into our line combinations. Luds, I asked Thomas after the whole thigh gate. That's actually kind of catchy. Interesting. About the same question I asked Miro yesterday, which was, hey, we're under the impression that Elaine didn't necessarily have all the things, which we were talking about, have all the final say of what he wanted to do. And Miro said he does think there are a few things different. He mentioned maybe D-zone breakouts will look a little different. When I asked Thomas, he said, yeah, I think we'll probably do some differences. I have no idea what those will be. We'll find out over the next few weeks.
I think that to me, with some of the answers that you're talking about, some guys are giving it seems like there's already a different vibe in the room.
Yes.
It's a little more relaxed and laid back. Maybe not like a general, and everybody else are just a soldier. So, I don't, when you talk about breakouts, I'm not sure that's exactly what they're talking about, but I don't know how many more breakouts there can be. With the exception of maybe toning and dialing back, as we talked about the flipper, so. And you've heard Gully say that he wants to have the puck on the stick more of his players. So the flipper is just the opposite of that. It's about having control for 5 seconds and then flipping it up in the air, and then it's a 50-50 ball again. So I got a funny feeling that he knows that he's got some skilled players there, and let's get it on the tape of those players as quickly as we possibly can. And let's try to exit the zone. If we're talking about leaving the defensive zone, let's exit the zone with control. And break things down as we move up the ice, which will hopefully create outnumbered rushes at the other end.
What do you think, Hikes, about the? I mean, Ludge just said they seem like they're a little looser, a little more relaxed. This is a team that has been very successful. They've been in the conference final 3 years in a row. They've won a ton, and maybe a change in mood might be a good thing for a team that knows what they're out. They know the expectations. They know what they're supposed to do and the pressure that faces.
Yeah, and kind of Thomas said it today, and I think a bunch of them said it. This is all great in theory,
Yeah.
but you're playing Winnipeg in game 1. You're playing Colorado in game 2. And what if you lose those? And now all of a sudden you're in the quicksand. And Gully has said, I don't have any lines or pairs in my head. Now, I think he's lying about that a little
Yes.
bit. But point being is, if he really does think he's just going to switch things around until he finds what he wants, what if we're in, December and they're 500 and they're changing lines? I mean, you have to go through the process. Yes, it feels good on day 1 and day 2, but they have to go through the process. And the great thing about Gully is he went through it in Edmonton. They went through different head coaches. They were, in fact, even now they're saying, oh, we didn't win the cup, so we've got to get better. We've got to do this. Well, he's lived through that. So he understands where they are. He understands the expectation, and he understands the fact that they are trying different things. They are moving things around with the hope of, hey, let's try and find a solution. So I'm excited about it, but it is a process, and we're just going to have to be patient and watch what happens.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you a question. Like, you've got the vibe there, and Owen, at the end of every one of the segments that we did throughout the summer, he's asking all the other reporters, what do you think of this team and all that kind of stuff. What's your opinion? I mean, are they as good as they? I don't know if you guys talked about this right off the top.
Nope, we haven't yet.
No.
Nope, this is a great question into this.
Well, I'm just Mike. I mean, because again, when it goes to the expectations and panicking or not panicking, I mean, my opinion is, they're definitely missing a top 6 forward, right? I mean, I think I should say, looking one, or maybe one's going to just pop up within the room. So I just wonder, like you talk about maybe being 500 after 10 games or whatever it is, but should the expectations be there like they were for the last couple of years?
I do. I think they should. And I think the fact that Glenn wants it that way is a good thing. They aren't as good as they were in the playoffs last year because they lost Marchment and they lost Granlund and they lost even Dodonna for the 20-goal score. I mean, you can't, just say, oh, it's no big
Heck
deal.
of a utility night.
Yeah. And so those guys are gone, and now they got to find new guys to step in. The hope is that Nils or Maverick or, another year of Wyatt Johnston or Robo getting back up into 100 points instead of 80 points.
Sam Steele getting a little bit more opportunity.
I'm going to waver on that one.
Okay.
I like Sam Steele. I'm not exactly sure.
Well, we're going to show the lines in a minute.
That's where your bump's going to come from. But again, you need bumps. You need these guys to get a little bit better. Rope. I mean, I love Rope, but why is he not an 80-point scorer or 35-goal scorer, 40-goal scorer? So, they need guys like that to take that next step. And then they need Mikko to be, 45 goals and 100 points.
It's not, and I think Luds has said this all summer with our other 31 segments, but it's not obvious that this team just picks up where it left off.
Correct.
But if you go back to the beginning of last season, I actually do think they're better.
Yeah.
But not necessarily yet where they were when they hit the playoffs last year because, again, expanded rosters, LTIR usage, and they just won't be able to do that the same way. All right, so you talked about young players filling voids. You talked about some of the players like Marchment, Granlund, Dodonna, even Dumba leaving. Let's take a look at the roster here. So let's go. Well, Bloods is here. Let's do defense first. We always talk about forwards. And we were talking about this in our segment yesterday. If you haven't watched yesterday's segment with Luds and myself, check out our YouTube page because we released this after GM Ben hit us with a football and took us off about 41 minutes in. We actually released this morning that final segment. And so we talked about this. And Luds was very clear that he isn't thrilled about the Harley-Lundqvist pairing and would like to swap them with Lyubushkin. Ike, you have similar thoughts?
I have completely different thoughts.
Ooh, let's go.
See, I've heard of the Zubov-Ludwig comparison. I want to go to the Zubov-Sador comparison. And can it be good to have two guys who can play off each other? Could Lundqvist be your Daryl Sador in this scenario?
Well, Mike, I agree with you with Sid, but Sid wasn't a defensive defenseman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First off, Sid, his thing that I don't think we talk about enough with Daryl was his competitiveness. Like he competed, and
Right.
as a matter of fact, I mean, I felt like I spent the first 6 months of Sid being there, of when he came back to the bench, like, dude, calm down, like, just relax. Like
Was the
he
nickname
was,
Roy?
yeah. I mean,
Because he,
he'd lose it, not lose it, but he just was a goer, right? And so once you get Sid to calm down, but I think that the reason him and Zuby were so good is because Sid had more of the Zuby in him than
correct.
obviously me or a couple other people. Sid could get up the ice and he could make things happen. Um, and he was also the kind of guy that could skate well enough and support Zuby or even lead, and knowing that Zuby would be right behind him, he could recover. He
Yeah.
could get back, and then he knew how to play an outnumbered rush for a period of time for guys to get back into the play. So, but my concern is, like, right now, you're saying that Nils Lundqvist, who's been here for 2.5 years, I don't know what games played, and Bishop, who's been here for just under a year, are going to be big pieces on the back end of a Stanley Cup possible team. Which, that'd be awesome if that happens, but I think there's going to be. I mean, again, we haven't. I don't. Nobody's really given Nils a real good opportunity to be part of that, but I still think there's going to be some speed bumps along the way, even with Leon. I
Yeah.
mean, there's going to be things, if Leon gets elevated, now all of a sudden he's not playing against the bottom six over there, or the bottom, maybe four players. If he gets elevated, he's gonna be playing against some pretty good players, and hopefully he gets a steady diet of it, because he can deter some of those guys coming into the offensive zone if he continues to play his style.
Yeah.
That's
What do you think about Heiskanen and Lindell? Like, can they be? I don't want to say a shutdown pair, but is that the one that you put out against the other team's best line?
Again, you can look at it. I don't listen. Everybody talks about Miro being a top 5 defenseman in the league.
Right.
Okay, I think a lot of that personally comes from the way he skates, the way he can transport the puck out of his zone with his legs. Doesn't necessarily have to be a pass like Harley does, but there are some holes in his game in the D zone. And now, granted, he doesn't spend as much time in the D zone
Yeah.
because he's a gifted puck guy and he can skate. But you get a steady diet, as I say, against some really good top lines in the league, and especially at playoff time, there could be cracks there. Essa, yes, I mean, he can
Yeah.
play against those guys. So, and I don't know, how do you put Essa with Miro being out there every 2.5 shifts, and then have Essa kill a complete penalty kill all season
a
long?
good question.
Well, what Glenn said is that I think Miro is going to be one of the penalty killers too.
But to Ludz's point, maybe that's where you sprinkle in a Bishop shift with Miro, or you drop somebody else,
Or put Harley back with
because I don't
Miro
think
every
you're
now and
taking
then.
Essa off the penalty kill at all, right? You're not
Let
going
me
to take
tell you,
like you're not getting him to
I'm
drop
using
down from
Bishop.
those minutes.
I'm using Bishop to kill more than I am Miro.
Yeah.
That's me.
But I'm just saying what Glenn said. Glenn likes Miro as a penalty killer, so we'll see.
That's good. Yeah, yeah, and again, Miro has a good stick. I mean, he can get sticks in lanes, he can get to loose pucks and things like that. But if you want to talk about people that set up in front of the net, I'll take Bishop every time.
Yeah.
All right,
That's
what about the
interesting.
forwards? Flash that forward card up there, Ryan, if you would so kindly, sir. And the big one is Jamie Benn with Johnston and Rantanen.
Yep.
It's a different combination than I think we all were envisioning during the summer, because we're all saying, well, it's going to be Robertson, Hintz, and Rantanen, and then you're going to figure the rest out. The Steele part of getting a chance to play with Duchesne and Sagan is not a surprise. Gulletson said as much on our show after he was hired, said,
Right.
we're going to give Steele a chance to play that. I think he has more offensive upside than people give him credit for. You see it every now and then when he gets those chances shorthanded on the penalty kill. So can he do it and be the guy that goes in the corners? He's not Mason Marchment because he's not 6'4", but he can play with that style. And I wonder if that will, and he has the skill to play with Duchesne and Sagan. The big question is, because I like the balance of this, of those top 3 lines. Jamie Benn really going to play those kind of elevated minutes? Because wasn't he about 12 and a half, 13 minutes average ice
I think
time
it was
last year?
14
Okay,
last year. But
but-
again, same thing.
But he's not playing 18
No,
minutes
not
like
like he used
Rantanen
to. No.
and Johnston are, right?
No. It'll be interesting. It's funny, and every individual's different. But when Mike hit the wall, it was about 36. And I think, a lot of people think, oh, Jamie's 34. No, I mean, he's 36 years old. And, there's a time when your body just can't do what it used to do. So now that being said, I think Glenn's going to, be a lot of energy for him. I think he's going to push. Glenn was saying yesterday he wants guys to go to the front of the net. I think Jamie's going to be top of the list of those guys to, get in that place. But I'm with you. I don't know. They're missing that guy.
Yeah.
And so now
Luds has said that all summer.
Yeah.
They're missing that spot. Luds, you saw Rantanen double shift a lot in the playoffs, getting him more ice time, more minutes. We've seen Wyatt lead the forwards in ice time. Are there going to be times if they decide to start the season with that forward group the way we just showed, where they send Wyatt and Mikko out with another left winger?
I can see Gully putting different left wingers up there, and I think that Wyatt being a young guy and what you said about Mikko, I think that they can double shift those guys at times during regular season games, and I think I think he's again. I look at it. He's got 50 to 60 games to play around with things, and you're having success and things are going well.
Yeah.
You can experiment with the right guy to be up there with them. So, the other day, I don't know if you sent it on or Sam sent it to me that Gully wanted to have an edgy player on each line.
Yep.
And okay. Can you put that board up there again for the forwards?
Yeah, put the forwards back up there, Brian, please.
Okay, so agreed. That Jamie's been that for
no doubt
over 1,000 games, or I don't know if he's hit 1,000, but anyway, where's the rest of the edgy?
So wouldn't it be okay? So does Maverick Bourque have to be the edgy guy in that line with Robertson and Hintz?
Okay, we have different definitions of edgy then.
I don't think they have enough edgy players.
I'm not sure if they have enough. And again, they have all of those energy guys stacked on a fourth line, which we were talking about yesterday. Beck, Faksa, Bastian, it seems like they're going to play a concentrated but perhaps reduced role compared to what we saw DeBoer do with his four lines.
Possibly, yeah.
I don't think they're going to get
not a whole lot of coaches played the fourth line 11 minutes a game, 11, 12 minutes a game. And Pete did. So it will be interesting to see. But I just don't think, as much as we talk and say we want this, there's certain personnel that you just can't do it. Like, honest and truly, in practice, it seems like Maverick might be the guy who goes to the left side like he told you guys on the show.
Yes.
That's something you got to look at. I would actually consider Radek possibly playing a left wing on a line because he could give you that Marchment vibe with Duchesne and Sagan, and maybe that would. I mean, we're just going to have to go through some of these games and try stuff because they don't have the perfect lineup.
But the good news is they have time.
That Mike makes more sense to me, and I think you give Maverick. Again, you're not going to have edgy on every line. Just look at the roster; it's just not going to happen. So I think you can put Maverick up there. And I think you put Robo then up, with Wyatt and Mikko. And now you've got two relatively, and see how Maverick does. And then you've got, you always come back with your bottom two lines. They can be a combined edginess. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know about Radek playing the wing. I mean, I don't know if he's quick enough to be on the wing. I think he's a good centerman. I think he's strong on faceoffs.
No, he does what he does. I was just thinking of the body and the comparison to Marchment.
Yeah, but I think that what you get then is you have two lines that can get up and down the ice, and then you have two lines. And again, I guess I alluded by saying, or forgot to say, that Jamie, to me, slots in better down on that line. I personally, I think if Jamie had to play the offside, I think he'd be fine too. Jamie's not a guy that makes a lot of plays coming up the ice and dangles and tries to beat guys. He's a north-south. He plays in straight lines, and Jamie still, if anything, Jamie still has a shot, and he's the kind of guy that can come down the right side, come in the zone on the forehand, get a puck to the net, follow it up, and then just take the whole show with him right to the goaltender. So, I don't think this is the ideal lineup in terms of having guys that slot in where they normally would, and if you have the ideal top 12. or top 13. So they're going to have to figure out what they have. Like I said, they're going to have to figure out what they have for the first 50 to 60 games. And I'm Mike. You got to. Aren't you expecting that Jim Nill is going to be looking all year long, and to upgrade something somewhere?
Well, and again, what we saw last year with the injuries is once you get one, it just opens the door to do almost anything at the trade deadline. Now it'll be a little bit different. I think they're watching closer this year on the LTI.
And the playoff lineups will be different, so
Yeah.
they can't do it quite the same. I know we went a little long, but I wanted to do all the lineup stuff in one segment because we're gonna grill Heika on the questions that I polled Luds and Sam on Tuesday next, after a fancy Luds ad read next here on DLS.
This is just the opposite of an ad read. This is put some pictures up in Ryan, and I'll talk about the pictures. So, are we doing the merchandise thing? Okay, we're doing the 20% all city warehouse sale, and up to, still haven't figured that one out, up to 85% off of the other stuff. But I just want to say, Mike, this is your second time on the show. I look at that DLLS sweater up there in the top left. I don't know if it's top left that people are seeing it or top right. Regardless, I think that any guest that comes into the studio twice needs to get a free shirt, whether it's a hoodie, which I think you probably look better in a hoodie than one of them tight little shirts down there on the bottom.
Wow.
So, I mean, wouldn't you like that, Mike?
I did. I would love that. And you're right. I look much better in hoodies than tight little shirts.
Hey, Luds, you've hit your time, so you're good. But do you know that this is actually his 4th appearance on the show and 3rd in studio, including one in Finland?
Your 3rd time in the studio?
Twice out there, 1st time in here, and once from Finland.
Oh, yeah, but that, okay.
It doesn't count.
Well, before we get back to the show here, I want to talk to you about the Supporters Club because, while we're thrilled to have our returning champion in studio today, you can also get in on the YouTube side of things with the Supporters Club if you sign up for this. And this is, as Ben likes to say, up on the top right there, true sicko level stuff. You can have special badging in the chat. Ardell is in there. Harry is in there right now with those Supporters Club badges on their chat, so you know that they're extra special. Andrew just signed up. It says Andrew Salinas, Andy Man. So welcome for signing up for that. Plus, it also gets you the usage of special emojis, exclusive just to the Supporters Club, and of course, a little bit extra content as well. So, another level of on top of sickoness. All right.
You want to be at the cool kids table, don't you know?
T.O. just signed up, and Ardell put the bing bong. You've got to be on the Cool Kids Club. Welcome to T.O., who just joined the Supporters Club as well.
Terrell Owens?
It could be. I mean, I don't think so, but who can say, right?
Yeah, you don't know.
All right, Luds, you've already answered these questions, but feel free to chime in if you don't like necessarily
my answer.
what Mike has to say about all this. I'm just trying to pull it back up. There it goes, because I had it and then, of course, turned it off. Luds asked you the first one. Are they better? The first one was, this is something Sean polled a bunch of people, and then he wrote about it back in August. Are the Dallas Stars a Stanley Cup contender this season? And these are yes or no questions, and you can elaborate if you'd like.
Yes.
Yes. So I think we all agree on that, as did the panel. Are the Dallas Stars a better team than last year? And that's what Luds asked you before. Mm-hmm. And the answer was,
we'll see.
We'll see. Not sure. Should the Stars...
Way to go out on a limb, Mike.
Should the Dallas Stars have fired Pete DeBoer?
Yes. For the simple fact that he had the best record in the regular season. He got them to 3 Western Conference Finals, and yet, for whatever reason, Jim Nill was 100% confident in making that move. So whatever was going on, if your GM is that confident in changing the coach, I mean, he fired him and then waited a month. It's not like he was sitting there waiting with the next great coach waiting in the wings to take the job. He had to go looking for another guy. But he was so confident that that was the right move that I got to believe it was the right move.
That's a good point. And
okay, Mike, let me ask you that. So if the whole debacle between Pete and the timeout, no timeout, Jake, get off. Well, I forgot to tell you, Jake, get off. And then the comments after that, if that never happens and it still ends the same way, does he get fired? Or did that just make it easier for Jim to let him go?
I think it made it easier. I think after the Edmonton
Okay,
loss.
does he get fired though?
It would have
That's what
been a
I thought.
tough one. It would have been really tough to fire him just because of what he's done. But again, a lot goes into Jim talking to the players, and did the players feel the same way that Jim felt? And it sure, like what we can read is, it sure seems like the players were fine with Jim making that decision. So then, I mean, the GM has to be able to talk honestly with the players after the season. So then the feedback he gets, would that have allowed him to make that decision? But I will tell you that after the loss to Edmonton 2 years ago, they were mad. They were mad that Pete didn't use Lindell, that he may have tired out Miro, that Pete did things that they would not have done.
There
And
was
that's
some dissension in the ranks.
because Pete does what Pete does. And I think as a GM, you make these suggestions and you think, well, they're going to be followed. And then when they're not followed because the head coach says, I've got the roster, I make the decisions, then I do think that can be a frustrating room to work in, so to speak.
And you know what, Luds? Pete, in his comments at NHL.com with Mike Zeisberger this week, kind of laid it out. He said, look, if we had gone first round out, second round out, third round out in our 3 years, we see some growth, we see some progress. It's probably okay. But they felt stagnant, which is crazy to think. Conference finals, so hard to do, Final Four, but there was sort of a plateau.
Okay, so I want to go back to what Mike just said. You said that a year ago something about tiring Miro out, which now I'm going to go back to the last segment. If you're going to start using Miro on the PK, and he's still going to play power play minutes and still play his other 5-on-5 minutes, are we not worried about tiring Miro out as being a year and a half, 2 years older and coming off of a knee injury? We're not worried about tiring him out now?
I think you are. I think we'll have to wait and see. I think the problem with tiring Miro out in that playoff run was he chose not to use Jim Nill's acquisition of Nils Lundqvist that Jim Nill gave up a first and third round pick for, and not just didn't use him, but sat him on the bench for 60 or 56 minutes every playoff game, and then just kept throwing Miro out over and over again. So I guess it's how Miro got tired out that, got into his head. Now, that's me speculating, trying to read stuff into this. But, I also talked to Jim, and you can just see there was frustration there on how that the coach, how Pete basically was deploying Nils Lundqvist when Jim went out and got this guy, and with the thought process of coach him up. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's a little bit raw, but
He
coach
can
him up.
become, and it really has seemed over 3 years that he was never a Nils Lundqvist fan. Pete.
No, it was
So,
clear.
hey, Mike. So, Mike, did you when you just talked about the whole having Nils sit out or play 2.5, 3 minutes there in the playoffs when he got in? Did you ever have that conversation with Nils, like coming back, returning? Because I would have never thought he would have come back again at the end
I
of
agree
that.
with you. I've never had the conversation, but like they allowed him to become an unrestricted free agent, which he didn't have that ability, but they must have talked to him and said, become a UFA and we'll sign you for a better price
They
for
did.
us.
So I actually talked to Nils about this last year, and I was like, we were all a little surprised when you went unqualified that you then went and signed again. We thought you were going somewhere else. He said, no, it was always the plan. So it had to be clearly about, we don't like the qualifying offer. There's a number that works better for us as a team, but stick with us. And he wasn't interested in changing teams. He still wanted.
I wonder if that's
that has to come from the GM.
Well, I was saying, I wonder if that's Nils' relationship with
It has to be.
with
It absolutely has to be,
the GM,
because it wasn't from being
No.
enamored with how he was used by the coaching staff.
Yeah, and even Naz, I think Nils likes him and everything like that, but
Yeah.
I think it all had to come with Jim Nill wanted Nils Lundqvist here and told him, I believe in you and I think we can get the most out of you.
Okay, so the next question here is, should the Stars have hired Glenn Gulletson?
Yes.
Why?
Just watching him right now, he's a different coach than he was back then. And I like the concept of him coaching Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl on the power play and saying, whatever that may be, whether that's those two see him as a peer, as a guy that they respect, as whatever that communication was. I think that's important to bring that into a room so that you can be Pete DeBoer and you can be an assistant coach on Team Canada or whatever. You can deal with the best athletes in the world, and also you can do it in a different way. You can do it in a way that is more gentle or friendly or whatever you want to call it. So I think he's. At the time, I was a little concerned, but I look now and think everything he's gone through, he's ready for this.
I've got a question for Mike.
Sure.
So
Oh my God, Ryan, join in. He's got his mic on, Luds.
If Gully doesn't take him to the Western Conference Finals, is this season a failure?
He says no.
Because he was asked if winning the Stanley Cup or bust is the mentality. He said no.
He said no, and it was a very mature answer. He's basically saying every season is a different season. So until we see how many injuries we have, who we played in the like you could sit there and go back and say when Marty shut out Vancouver 3 times and lost, was that a fail? Well, Marty's going like, no, I did my job, and so sometimes winning and losing isn't as black and white as it should be. I think what Gully really wants is to get the most out of this team and then have them ready to play at the right time. Because you can look at even Winnipeg last year, and is that a failure? They won a President's Trophy.
Well, and look at Luds' team in '98. They probably should have won it all, but Joe Nieuwendyk hurt his knee.
Right.
And those bumps, breaks, bounces happen. It's really hard to win a Stanley Cup. So you can't bank on you will win the cup.
Yeah.
But if you get your team and notice obvious improvement, get to the playoffs in the best state you can, and play well, you deal with the breaks.
He will be judged, though.
But he will be judged.
That's the way sports work.
All right. We have to do one more ad break, and then I have a few more of these, and then we'll see if we have any time for NHL news and notes, because I know Luds has got some opinions, and I know Mike does too.
Crosby to Dallas? I mean, you're there.
Let's do it.
You might
We're
as
here
well
on
talk to him.
DLS. Let's first talk about being a diehard, and what a great time to sign up, because you can do it before the season starts. You have the whole season in front of you. Scan the QR code right below Mike there. That will send you to our website, alldls.com, and you can sign up today. If you haven't signed up already, if you haven't been a diehard this year, you should, because not only do you get all the access throughout our platform, you also get a free t-shirt. You could have the Mike Modano 16-bit shirt, one of the originals, or you could have one of the many shirts that we've been floating around more recently. The Finnish Mafia actually had to do a second run that sold so well. I've seen multiple people in Frisco the last 2 days wearing the Otter shirt. It's a fantastic looking shirt. And of course, you have the Captain, you have the Moose, you have the Mikko Finisher shirt, you have the Wyatt 16-bit, which is a little bit like this, but a different color. All really great things. And you get access to everything that Sam and Sean write about the Stars, Tim Cato with the Mavs, Clarence, of course, with the Cowboys, and Jeff with the Rangers. So great writing staff, lots of fun. The diehard only Discord channel. Discounts on merch. Well, let's talk about that. If you're a diehard, you get 20% off merchandise, in addition to the free shirt you get when you sign up for your first year. Then we have this thing called the Ball Knower Bonus. What does that mean? Well, you go to the website, alldls.com. You click on merch, and then there's a Ball Knower bonus link, and it will give you some options. I'll do it with you just to give you a quick idea of what we're doing here. Because what you do, and why not do it while the merch sale, so you layer on these extra discounts and get even more. You pick what promo you want to try. Maybe you're a college football fan. Right now, we've got how many Arizona State sacks versus Baylor. Okay. Or you could do, let's say, the Cowboys, total points versus Chicago. If you get it right, you spend $25 or more in merch. You choose your pick. If you get it right, you'll get a gift card for the same amount you spent. So you basically double your money in merch. Die Hard discount. Merch sale this weekend. Ball Knower bonus. Great way to play. All right, let's bring Luds back in. We have a couple more of these for Mike. Should the Stars trade Jason Roberts?
Not this year. Now, if he goes and does whatever he does, let's say it's 100 points, 50 goals, and then he wants $15 million, which I think would be legit in this marketplace, then yes. And then they go get what they lost in the Mikko trade. And, but the beauty of Jim Nill is all the crap that Colorado went through last year because Mikko was going to be an unrestricted free agent. They don't have to go through it with Jason because Jason's going to be a restricted free agent. So if he goes and has the greatest season ever, then that just raises his trade value. And yes, it will also raise the can we pay him whatever and pay Miko 12 million. And you have to, I mean, every team has to, say, can we afford all this? But at the end of the season, if they can't afford him, then yeah, trade him for just a ton of crap that you're going to like.
Which I would say don't find a way and pay him. If he's
We'll
playing
see.
that well,
We'll see.
you bet on that talent.
Yeah, but again,
But you're right.
now can you afford to have that and 12 million?
Well, I mean, we were talking about how do they find a way to get Connor McDavid here. So, yeah, I think you
Good.
can figure it out.
All right.
Is Jake Ottinger a top 5 goalie in the NHL right now?
Right now, no. Because those games where he needs to be that guy, he hasn't done it yet. Well, he's done it in a lot of them. I mean, obviously the Calgary series and beating Winnipeg, beating Colorado, those are great wins. But he needs to, one, do it in the playoffs, and two, do it in the Olympics and get that opportunity to be a top 5.
Okay, 2 more quick ones. We've already debated this at length, so that's why I'm trying to get through these with you, and then I want to talk to you and Les about a couple NHL news and notes. Will Miro Heiskanen ever win a Norris Trophy?
No. And I said because of the scoring. I mean, it's the number one thing that media people do is you got to be the leading scorer among defensemen or top 3, and he's just not that guy.
It's going to be hard to outscore McCarr and Hughes.
I'm going to make I think his points go down this year. I think Thomas Harley's the number 1 power play quarterback, and
we'll see.
We'll see. And then Miro's more used on the PK. We'll see. But what we've seen from Thomas Harley is he should be the number 1 power play quarterback.
And the last one, Luds is agreeing. We agree. I do too. I think Harley has more offensive natural instincts that way. I think Miro's more of a team first defer guy, and we want a little bit more of especially at the point. Again, these are great problems to discuss.
Yeah, exactly.
Will Mikko Rantanen be a 100-point player in Dallas without Nathan McKinnon?
Yes. I think because of the fact that there's a chance him and Rope create a really good chemistry if that's who he ends up playing with, or if it's Wyatt. I think the opportunity is there for him to do that. And the other thing is I think he really wants to be the guy. He wants to earn his paycheck. I think he really wants to say, I deserve all this.
All right. Couple NHL. Thank you for going through that poll with us. Couple NHL news and notes, Luds, that we hadn't been able to get.
Let me
to
ask Mike one question. Mike, are they going to miss Mikhail Granlund?
Yes, they will. It's funny because I didn't think much of Mikhail Granlund before he came to the Stars. I'm like, again, just standing next to him, he's a tiny human, and you're like, whatever, hey. But then when you watch him, he's a gutsy player,
and he's a playoff style player.
Yes, and he drags people into the battle with him. So yes, I think they'll definitely miss him. But what's he making now? 5, 7?
Yeah.
He's making 7. Yeah,
there's no way the Stars would have given that. Yeah,
but I think that's going to make a difference of the 100-point year, only because, like as you said, he did so many different things, and I think that makes a big difference. I think he's very underrated. So anyway,
I will say this: that even Duchesne plays well with Rantanen. So there's options there of people who can help make Rantanen a 100-point player.
Be interesting to see how that goes. All right, Luds. NHL news and notes. JT Miller named the 29th captain of the New York Rangers. And whoa, what a year difference has been made, because this seemed like just a drama-filled chaos season in Vancouver. It was. Now he's going to wear the C in New York. And that, you go from last year to this. What a difference, what a change for Miller. And what do you think about after trading Trouba away and not having a captain, now having Miller as the guy wearing the C?
Love it. I love it. I have said for years that I think that the New York Rangers, they have to be more selective in the kind of players that they bring into that market. They're not all Mark Messiers, because you have to be able to play under the pressure. You're in a big city. There's, as we know, I mean, it's like playing in Montreal and some other places. There's so much going on. And I think that the way that Miller speaks out, I think he speaks out from the side of wanting to win. It's not about hurting somebody's feelings. He's not trying to do that. He's trying to get players to play at the top of the game. And I think he understands what you have to put in to win hockey games, and then obviously win in the playoffs. And I think he's not afraid to stand up to a superstar or two. Maybe he even gets in Zabinajad's face at times, or Fox or guys like that. I think it's the right call for that team and that market.
Kind of weird to think that he might have had to go to New York to get a more low-key, low-profile season. That makes no sense, but it was everything in Vancouver last year. It was one of the top stories.
Yeah, and it also, I think, says something about Vancouver.
Yes.
Like, I mean, the fact that they let him go and kept the other guy, and now, now New York's saying, like, oh, no, we like you, the guy you didn't like.
They made a choice.
Yeah, and so we'll see what happens with the Canucks.
Anze Kopitar yesterday in L.A. announces his pending retirement. He's going to play this year, says this will be his last. We knew it was going to come at some point, but boy, he's maintained a really high level, even at an advanced age for the NHL.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he's done that has made the Kings very good when there were times when you thought, oh, they're going to go down. And again, talk about the role of a captain, like he just drags them into battle every game. He's just a consistent, really overall great player.
Luds, we were so disappointed with LA. He frozen? No, he's not. Okay. We were disappointed with LA not beating Edmonton in the first round when they looked better than that. But I think we're getting pretty close to Quentin Byfield taking over this team. But talk about being able to have Kopitar as a mentor before that point for more than 1 or 2 years. That's going to be really valuable for the Kings.
Yeah, I look at it in a way. I look at it as Yuri Lettinen. Yuri, the way that Let's played the game here, and played at both ends of the rink, and he just kind of seemed to fix every line that the coaches put him on. But it was the way that he went about it, and I think you learn a lot of things. I learned little things about how he defended with his little stick twirl that he twists guys' hands that you can't do anymore. But the one thing where I give Kopitar a ton of credit is that he knows that the end of the road is near. And I don't think that players should, especially those kind of players that are Hall of Famers, are going to be Hall of Fame players, that they kind of carried out a little too long. I mean, I look at a guy in Pittsburgh, and no, not Sid. I'm talking about Malkin. I think Gino's at the end of the road, and I hope he doesn't go, because he's had a great career. I think he was one of the top 100, maybe. I think he got into that category. I think that he needs to, whether whatever happens this year, I don't think he should play anymore. But obviously that's not up to me. But I like the decision by Kopitar.
Quick photo for you, because the Washington Capitals announced a couple of days ago their third jerseys, and they are bringing back the Screaming Eagle thirds. There's two. Do you have the other one, Ryan? So there's the initial one, and then there's the other one like that. I remember that time.
Yeah.
Does that elicit any fond nostalgic memories?
I never was that big on the Capitals.
Yeah.
The arena was really awful, the old one. What was that, like the Saddle Dome? And it was in Landover. Do you remember that? Everything was black inside. It was really a weird arena. It's fine. I like old school. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Hey, Mike, it's funny because I played with a guy by the name of Rick Green. They got traded from there to Montreal. Greeny would tell me about them days when they weren't good days. He had some guy in the stands that hated him so much. He kept bringing big signs, and every time Greeny was on the ice for a minus, he'd hold up a big sign. Minus 59, minus 61, minus 62. I'll never forget him talking about that. Hey, and Owen, speaking of pictures.
Luds, we got about a minute, so this is perfect timing.
I've got a picture that sums up some of the way that Heika answers questions.
Is he sitting on a fence, Luds?
Yeah, kind of. That's what I got out of it.
He used to give me a hard time because I would use movie references or song references.
One of my favorite things about your observations pieces.
And he goes, "You just don't want to say it yourself. You let somebody else do all the dirty work for you." And I go, "See,
I love it." So, Luds, we already know that preseason games are and you can't wait to get to the regular season. Mike, we have about 40 seconds. Preseason game tomorrow, Stars and Blues. What are you looking for?
It's just a necessary evil, but I do think you can pull something out of every game. It's just like those two prospects games. The fact that Toby got to coach them to a win in the second game, that was important. So I'm here, you're here anyway. I could be at home or I could be watching a bunch of crappy hockey. So I'd rather watch crappy hockey.
You never know what you're going to see. And Luds, I know we have to sign off here. can't wait for you to get your chance to watch Trey Taylor play and skate because I think you'll be really impressed.
Oh, is this the guy that does the 10 and 2 up the ice all the time?
Yep.
Oh, I've watched it. I've watched it before. He does it from one end of the rink to the other.
Yeah, it's not quite
I'm more
Antonio
excited about-
Stranges, but it's close.
Honestly, I'm more excited watching how Nils and Bork play in their opportunities.
We have a pregame show tomorrow night. It's at 5:15 Central Time. Postgame show to follow. Great Mike Heika for Luds
Thanks,
in
Mike.
Pittsburgh. For Ryan, I'm Owen. See you tomorrow night.
We all silly like the mayor.